righty. So, hello, everybody. Yep, about, I don't know, 45 seconds early, but then again, what is time? Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us, all of us, all you free thinkers, Soul Tribe members. Hey, David Barry, how you doing, my friend? Blazing River, how you doing? I've seen you a while. Nina, you're going to have to make everybody grilled cheese and tomato soup. You just can't have it by yourself. Made me hungry. Hey, Ann, how you doing? Bosto to everyone. May favor grace us all this day. May there be nothing missing, nothing broken in your life. And if you got an anniversary, happy birthday. Happy birthday. We had a good one last night. Thank you. For everyone who sent well wishes. Yeah, it's cool. Anyway, so what's happening? Hey, Darth, how you doing? I know you would, Nina. I know you would. And you know what? It puts that sensory thing, because all of us could see, and particularly when it gets cold, grilled cheese. Oh, are you kidding? And to have tomato soup right there. Come on. Does that just make everyone hungry? Hey, Susie Q, how you doing? Good to see you. Thank you, all the moderators. Thank you for your wonderful, well, how you keep everything flowing. Thank you. Wasn't Jennifer a lot of fun? Gonna have her back on about 2 weeks. That young lady is special, and there's so many of us. We're all special. Hey, speaking of special, hello, Marsha. How you doing? So good to see you. And Bosto to you as well. Tina Rose, hello. How are you as well? Man, there's so many people here. Emerald Eagle, good to see you. Truth in Me. Is Lost in Space? Did I see Lost in Space? Anyway, tonight, the Steiger Perspective, artist.first.com. 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Mountain. Going to be covering, the topic is, where are the peacemakers? We need peacemakers. Tell you, either we've got the meaning of the word wrong, and this is why today on the Canon laws of sovereignty, we're going to be discussing etymology, origin of a word. And I was meditating on this, and actually, you think about it, etymology covers time. Because once we invoke origin, beginnings, roots, time immediately comes into the picture. So, yeah, deep stuff. And so please join me. You'll enjoy it. It's going to get into a lot of topics that we can't cover here for obvious reasons. It's still cold outside. Yeah, it is. Anyway, so check it out. If you got the time, love to have you come by. Tomorrow is the card reading day. So that is cool. Here's a little interesting tidbit. Let me just read this to you. So I like to sometimes just throw things out there, that I think about, and I'm sure you do too. This is from a website called medium.com, and it was, I loved it. It says, were people in the medieval period clean or not? The young lady who wrote this, Nicole Valentine, she wrote, many of us see things like dirty bodies, rotting teeth, soiled clothes. These are the things that many people think about in the medieval times. And she said, if this comes to mind when you think about the hygiene in the Middle Ages, think again. Dirt was far from fashionable. People might not have been slathering and hand sanitizer on themselves every 5 minutes, but they certainly maintained a level of cleanliness. So let's take a look at some of the ways the medieval people would have kept themselves fresh and tidy. They apparently really dug the smell, like we do. First, adjust to your idea of clean, because although your outer appearance is going to win you an evening with a handsome knight, there's a cleanliness and beauty that goes even deeper. The state of one's soul was utmost importance in the medieval period, and it influenced every aspect of life. If a person was spiritually clean, it was sure to manifest externally in the form of great smiles and glowing skin. Whether you were truly holy or not was irrelevant. A clean body meant a clean soul, and therefore extra social brownie points. Therefore, the desire to trick everyone into believing in your sanctity would have been a strong motivator to keep yourself meticulously clean. Now for a bath. Yes, medieval people bathed. In fact, people in the Middle Ages bathed more than any other era after them until the 19th century. It wasn't just adults either. Parents were advised to frequently bathe newborns. This would be followed by a nice oil rub. Once clean and dry, they would be tucked into blankets scented with petal roses. Wow, sweet dreams were sure to follow. While babies were being swaddled in roses, adults were soaking in barrel-like tubs covered with tinted cloth, excuse me. Of course, those in the higher ranks would have found it easier to invest the time and money into bathing. A few royals even had water piped in. Having to haul in buckets of water wouldn't have stopped other nobles from enjoying a good soak. However, servants were instructed to hang flowers and herbs in between the tinted cloths to line the tub with sponges for added comfort. I could dig that. Think about that. You're adding, yeah. The Lord would be washed with hot water infused with fresh herbs. Rose water was preferred for rinsing. Medical issues were another reason to bathe. The Saxon Leek Book of Bald, written in the early 900s, is one of the earliest surviving English herbal guides. Suggestions are made for herbal baths and steam for digestive issues, pregnancy, and age-related issues, among others. Clean hands were a must. As nice as it sounds, one can't always go for long soaks in the tub. In that case, a steam bath might be in order. In the 12th century text dedicated to women's health has a nice section dedicated to beauty and cleanliness. To make the steam, the author suggests heating tiles, then dousing with hot water. The lady should be covered with cloths and remain in the steam until she sweats to ensure the full benefits of the bath. Even though baths of any sort would not be a daily occurrence, basic hygiene practices were expected. Medieval courtesy books taught hands, face, and teeth should be washed every morning. Hands would be cleaned constantly among the aristocrats. Cups and plates were communal, and most foods were eaten with the fingers. No one wanted their dining companion to have dirty hands or nails. Yeah, that just that just goes, man, my appetite. For high-ranking noble, hand washing followed its own ritual. A servant known as a ewer would pour scented water over his lord's hands, which were held over an empty bowl. His hands now clean, another servant brought a towel and dried them. Hands would be washed before and after dinner. Well, I would guess so. Washing of the hair, it's hard to say how often medievals washed their hair. However, in the 14th century Italian book, Decamandron by Genovelli Barcado, every Saturday is mentioned. Isn't it odd? Because when I was growing up, Saturdays were bath days. Hair did not need to be washed in conjunction with a bath. Instead, a large bowl would be placed on a mat on the floor. The lady or gentleman, for that matter, would then strip to the waist, hang their heads over the bowl, and scrub away. The Tortola suggests a woman wash her hair with a mixture made with ashes of burnt vine and chaff of barley nodes and showbread. The burnt vine was a source of lye, which is what makes soap. This recipe would make hair golden and shiny. But what if you didn't have golden hair? Not a worry. A woman with dark hair could cook up a green lizard in some oil, sans head and tail, of course, and rub that into her dark tresses. And for the record, the desire to have lovely locks wasn't just a female thing. Several 14th and 15th century writers complained about the vanity of men and their desire for shiny hair and beards. Why, who would have thought? One and more. Goes to show you, hippies haggard figured out about brushing your teeth. Here's one. With the care medieval people took to their hair and skin, it shouldn't surprise you teeth were well cared for. Tooth powders were a popular way of keeping teeth clean and shiny. Twigs, especially those from the hazel, were popular toothbrushes. Rubbing with cloth was an option too. Again, we get advice from the Tortola. The woman should wash her mouth after dinner with very good wine. Then she ought to dry her teeth well and wipe them with a new white cloth. Finally, let her chew each day a fennel or lovage or parsley, which is better to chew because it gives off a good smell, cleans the gums, and makes the teeth very white. Who would have known? Smelly breath was just as unappealing then as it is now. If stomach ailments were the source, a mixture of aloe, wormwood, and honey was the promised cure. If the cause was bad gums, things were a bit more complicated. This remedy used quicklime, sulfur, and a bright yellow mineral called orpiment. Vinegar, fire, and a piece of scarlet cloth were also indeed used. So anyway, I just thought you would like to see that. To me, it was, different. Now we all know. Come on. I mean, who of us doesn't really want to know? I mean, who would have thought? And it comes to turn out, hey, they're just like us. But one never knows. Now we all do. We're a little wiser and a little smarter. So anyway, how's it going in the chat room? 7p, I'll get back to you on the email. We'll get a time scheduled. All right. Yeah, we know that you're in here. Let's see. Love Witch Hazel. There, Susie Q was talking about this. Hey, Lost in Space, how you be? Spirit Woman, Colorado, hello. Any idea where David Castle is? That's a very good question. Hey, Big Al, how you doing? Hello, Perry. Hello, Danny. I don't know. Robert V, how are you doing? Don't know. I hope he's all right. I haven't heard from him on email either. When's the last time anyone heard from David Castle? Don't know. Well, we'll just send him out good vibes and energy wherever he is. I know he has, he takes care of his parents, and it's a challenging situation. Good friend, my very good friend Rennie, she takes care of her parents. It's yeah. I read a interesting article, and I think it was in maybe in the journal. I don't know. This is amazing, and the number was just staggering. But I believe it was 70% of all 30-somethings are living with their parents. Wow, who would have known? Well, David Barry, we'll just hope that he's in here. Hey, Robert, is it cold up where you are? I bet it is. So let's talk some things about laws of sovereignty. Truth in me, it is a fabulous day. The energy has been phenomenal. I'm telling you, it is just freaking as sometimes as is reversed as it has been over the years. It's like over here. And this is what I love about the pendulum. If you get to ride it going up, ride it out. Um, Origins, etymology, it impacts time directly. And we're going to be covering a lot of different things. So for the next 45 minutes, hold on, because it's going to be one hell of a fun ride. All right. So in Article 43 of the Canons of Sovereign Law, we have the Calendarium Gregorian, or the Gregorian calendar. Cheers to everyone. Canon 6550. The Calendarium Gregorian, also known as the Gregorian calendar, was known as the Western calendar, and Christian calendar is a 16th century CE form and method of time, space, keeping, and any book and account of time based on such methods. This one is deep, folks. I mean, come on, hike up your big boy britches and let's get into this. This is amazing when you begin to see words in succession, such as form and method. I, in school, took architectural drawing and mechanical drawing. And many of you, whoever did, form and method it's critical. Form and method affects science. It affects the psyche. Now, carry that over to form and method of time, space. We hear the frequency said space, time. No, time, space. Keeping. Keeping means to protect, to have. And any book on account of time based on such methods. This is deep. So the illusion that we live, all of us, humanity, and I don't know if this is the same as it is in the other kingdoms, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom. I don't know. I don't know what their perception of time is, and I don't know what their laws are. In fact, I haven't ever seen very much teaching on what are the laws of animals, what are the laws of plants. Surely they must have their canons as well. But this one here, it affects the calendar, our complete understanding of time. So Canon 6551 reads, the Gregorian calendar deliberately usurped, corrupted, and replaced the original Almanactus Annus, or the yearly almanac, system of time, seasons, tides, and astronomy of the true and original Roman Catholic Church, the Romana Ecclesia Catholics, first invented in the 8th century by the Carolingians. Well, so the whole thing with our calendar, Gregorian, we're going to read about him, deliberately usurped. That means to siphon off power illegally, gaining access to authority, title, position. Then, when they usurped that power illegally, they corrupted it. And that word corrupted, it's from the base word in etymology where we get excuse me, crap from. They crapped on it, soiled it, contaminated it, and replaced the original yearly almanac. It's hard to say how far this goes back. We're going to see. But we know that it came from the Romans, which tells me it most likely came from the Greeks, most likely came from the Egyptians, Mesopotamians, Sumerians. Here we have the Roman Catholic Church. They give reference to the 8th century. Now, we'll discuss there in a second. Canon 6552 says, contrary to deliberately false etymology. There's the word right there. The word calendar is derived from the 16th century invented Latin kalends, which itself is derived from the ancient Greek kalo, meaning to burn, kindle, or sacrifice by fire, and indios, meaning to be. Therefore, the kalends, or the calendar, from the 16th century literally means this applies to each and every one of us every freaking day, means literally to be sacrificed by fire, equivalent to the 13th century Roman cult invented the word for sacrificing victims to Baal, Moloch, Satan, being the Holocaustos, or the Holocaust. Most people are asleep. They would not give a rat's ass about what's being said here. Why? Because they are already been numbered for the slaughter. But to those of us who say, be damned to all, but truth be known to all, this is a big deal. If we live in a construct that is, in fact, founded by law, its foundation and framework, then this is significant, because what this is saying, each day we are being burned as kindle or sacrificed by fire to Baal, Moloch, Satan, and we are being in the Holocaust. You can put lipstick on a pig and a sow's ear is still going to stink. It's going to still look like a pig. And no matter what we try to do to this calendar, to what they called the yearly almanac, and replaced it with this is, in my humbled opinion, in framing all of this out and digesting it, would mean that no matter what we perceive this spell, this could very well be where it, in fact, came into complete force major. Now, I don't like the idea of Baal. I sure the hell don't like Moloch. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And the Satan, we know that that word itself is a carryover from a much earlier time, but now it's taken its place with what some speculate is in fact the true God, Baal. Now, Moloch, I don't like at all. I just gotta tell you. No, I mean, I just don't want anything to do with that. It's like, man, it's again, it's this whole choice, either you go to the right or you go to the left. No, why do I have to make a choice at all? Reality is more multidimensional than in two directions. Okay, so we know that they corrupted it from its origin. Then in Canon 6553, they claimed etymology of the word calendar from the Latin calens to mean a sacrifice on the first day of the month is deliberately misleading and a fraud designed to hide the 16th century invention of the word from kalendeos, meaning literally to be sacrificed by fire. By implication, this means the 16th century invention of the calendarium Gregorium, or the Gregorian calendar, Gregorian, yes, also known as the Western calendar, deliberately makes each day a day of Holocaust sacrifice to Baal, Moloch, and Satan. I ain't digging this at all. I just got to tell you, this is, and if this is part of the laws of sovereignty, how else can one interpret this than other being of a magic? I mean, folks, this is like way up there. I mean, number one, why? There has to be a purpose embedded in all this. And I don't like the notation attached to the very calendar that you and I base our reality on. We base our existence on each day. Never knowing some a-hole back 500 years ago. And isn't it interesting, at this same time period, this is when we have the King James Bible that completely rewrote everything, including the very principles and foundation of a religious belief that had held prior precedents for nearly 1,200 years. Complete history is being altered, redesigned, and incorporated into what we call daily life. I mean, could it be that this is why, whether it be rich, whether it be poor, seems like satisfaction is never achieved? I don't know. This is the kind of the deep stuff. Canon 6554 says the term almanac comes from the 8th century Carolingian astrological and timekeeping system from the Latin words alma, meaning kind and fair, and nactus, meaning to obtain or reckon, to estimate, to find. Hence, the original true meaning of almanac, as invented by the Carolingians in the 8th century, is a system of fair reckoning and estimation of time and celestial movements. Wow. So look what happened here. You take 6554 and transpose it over 6553, and folks, this doesn't bode well for techno man, modern man, enlightened man. They took what was a kind, or what could be described a fair system to obtain or reckon, to estimate, to find. They changed the estimation of time in celestial movements itself. Now, I know what we can see. I know what our science can track, but then again, everything is still, by these canons, been usurped, superimposed upon, to be sacrificed by fire, to live each day in a holocaust, and to be sacrificed to these ancient Mesopotamian deities. Baal, which is barium and aluminum, what they spray in the air. Moloch is said to be the god of abortion. And then you have the Satan, which is a character that comes really from more of the Middle East. Christianity is locked into Satan, and that's how they changed that. But isn't it interesting, in all of this, guess who we don't see here? We don't see Lucifer, do we? You would think, being the sacrifice by the luminous, the light, the fire, that we would definitely want to see probably some sort of reference to this. Nothing about Samuel, excuse me, and Lilith. But we see Baal and Moloch. Something ain't right up here, folks. I'm just telling you, something ain't right. And we got a long ways still yet to go. I mean, the implications on this is just, it's off the scale. We'll continue on this. I just want to go into another document. But I don't know about you. I mean, we all interpret everything as to our own perception. Then that leads to several questions. What about our mind? Is there a law that covers our mind? Well, there just so happens to be that there is. And let me pull this up. Give me 1 second here, folks. Here we go. This is the pact of what they call the covenant, or of one of heaven. Apparently in Article 103, the Canons of Mind, capital M. 103.1, Canons of Mind. By this most sacred covenant, the Canons of Mind are formed, also known as the Canonum de Mentis. All students of divine law, as it pertains to the mind, behavior, mental cognition, and competence, are subject to inclusion in the canon of mind. That's us. That's your personality. 103.2, primarily and only true first canon of mind. Okay. Any law, court orders, opinions, or other quasi-legal claim that contradicts this most sacred fact, or contradicts one or more clauses contained within the canon of the mind, shall be ipso facto, null and void from the beginning. I'll give you some insights. You need to copy this, paste it, put it in your casket, or put it in wherever you're going to go on your departure, because this becomes really important. I think it is the way to supersede and suspend every matrix law that's out there. 103.3, structure of the canon of mind. The canon of mind, also known as the Canonum de Mentis, is structured into one book, which in turns is divided into chapters, which in turn is divided into articles, and then one or more clauses within each article. So think about this in a org chart. This is your brain. This is your mind. It says it's in a book. Is structured into one book. A book is not ambiguous here. It's not, one that has a different meaning than what it's saying. No, it says it's in one, and one is capitalized. So it means one book. That's the title of the book, one book, which in turns is divided into chapters, which turns are divided into articles, and then one or more clauses within each article. Wow. I love this stuff. I swear this is to me this is the dopamine for my brain. It's so we're not finished. We have yet one more. So we have here Article 110 in the standards of canons of times and places. Article 110.1, the canons of times and places. By this most sacred covenant, that's a contract, the canons of times and places are formed, also known as the Canonum de Temporis de Locum. All standards of divine law as it pertains to time and places are subject to inclusion in the canon of times and places. That's just, if you said what, you got a right to say what. So it's also known as, in the Latin, all standards of divine law as it pertains to time and place are subject to inclusion in the canon of times and places. All right, so let's see what Article 110.2 says. And this is exactly, if you ever read a bill, whether it's from Congress down to City Hall, same outline. Any law, court orders, opinions, and other quasi-legal claim that contradicts this most sacred fact or contradicts one or more clauses contained within the Canonum de Temporis Locum shall be ipso facto, null and void from the beginning. Structure of canon in times and places. The canon of times and places, also known as the Canonum de Temporis et Locum, is structured into one book. Here's this one book again, which in turns is divided into chapters, which is in turn divided into articles, etc., etc. Do you ever get the feeling that sometimes, even if you're riding the bus, it doesn't really feel like you're on the bus? Does that make sense? I don't know. I think it does. Because I get times where I read this and I'm going, all right, so let's say that hypothetically that these are just something that someone made up. Well, even if they did, as I've asked, who sits around and writes this stuff? Because if whoever it is, they're definitely channeling into something really, I mean, there isn't any debaseness to this. This is high critical thinking. And I don't know. It's interesting. As I've read the document and continue to read it, it reflects history extremely well. Does a good job on it. But it gets back to this etymology of time. Darth, he said, why would they write or channel this? It's depends on your point of view. I could see where someone, when you're dealing with a canon, it's in every religion. It's in every government. So it writes history. In fact, let's just go over there and see how accurate, as we have seen before. You can do your own fact checking. Let's go over here. So there is so much here. We've talked about how the papal rescript came into being. And that's exactly what it is. It's a rescript. All of our laws are predicated on Western Roman legal system, which comes from Rome itself, which was, at one time, I would say probably, you look at the influence of both the Greek, the Egyptians, the Minoans. I think all of these ancient cultures were all based upon law. Going back even to the Sumerian tablets, the Sumerians, our form of government here in the United States looks exactly, with very few modifications, to the same type of Congress the Sumerians had nearly 8,000 years ago. So when I look at these and I read them, and I don't know everything about history, but I try to keep myself versed. These dates go, yeah. I mean, let me ask you something. Can you tell me what happened between the year 400 BCE to the year 1 CE? What happened in the history of the world? Well, it's the largest gap in the Bible, by the way. You end in the book of Malachi, which supposedly was written in some 500 BCE. Then this God is not heard from. Doesn't say a word. Nothing's written. Nothing is ever found. Nothing. And it's interesting because where they break off in their imaginary history, I can actually bring us into the factual history. So if we look at the year 333 BCE, what was happening to what they would call the known civilized world? That's India. We really didn't know what was going on in the Far East. But Alexander the Great was conquering much of what was called the civilized known world. And his conquests are well documented. Judean history uses a lot of what the young emperor did. The thing about Alexander the Great was that his Hellenistic views and his style of government was what they say corrupted all forms of religion prior to that time. It reflects as well that when Judea, Palestine, that whole region, which, King Atraxus actually ruled at the period prior to Alexander coming in, it included every religion that was there. And the thing is that once you get put into the pot with all the rest, yeah, you may have your distinctness of flavor, but you're still combined with all the rest. And so that is part of a history that you don't see in the Bible. Now, there are books of the Maccabees that bring out some of these pieces of history. And it's always been interesting to me why this religion ignored this period of time in human history. So when I read these kind of documents, for me, it gets into history. Look at this, Canon 6557. While the Roman pontiff is free to construct a range of forms of rescription pontification, the papal rescripts, in accordance with the claim legitimacy of such remedy defined by Corpus Aureus Canisi, the three most common primary forms of papal rescript are in the forma grastosa, in the forma commissura, in the forma mixtra, which is matrix. The rescript, and I know, how many of you are really good at Latin? You actually see the words, you can see exactly what they're saying. Anyway, this is important because these constructs of law were passed down throughout Europe. The Dark Ages were Dark Ages for a reason. Because something took place. Something took place again about the 1200 CE. Something took place. And now we're seeing the other time that something took place was the 16th century. So when I see these type of documents, to me, I'm going, if someone wanted to make this up, well, they're a hell of a lot smarter than the average Joe, and a lot smarter than many professors and so-called doctorates. That this one here, it's no mystery. And I know I'm running out of time, but feudal law, I mean, that impacts you and I. I mean, all these laws came down to, wow, documents like the Magna Carta. Indeed, they say one of the most first documents of freedom is what I'm trying to put out there. But I want you to look at this. Feudal form, also known as the feudal law form, is the form of sovereign territorial law. Sovereign law, noble law, land law, property law, and society law created from 1215 by Roman Pontiff Innocens II, who was in exile, apparently. He was related to the Orsini and the courts of the Tusculum and the Pisan Venetian noble family. The Venetians, yeah. as a franchise system with the support of Frederick II of the House of the Hohenstaufen to attract suitable warlords and militia leaders who pledged complete alliance to the Roman cult to be granted a royal title and immunity by Rome to kill ancient landowners, take their place, and rule the population as worse than animals in exchange for regular taxes paid to the Roman cult or the Vatican. As Morpheus would say to Leo, welcome to the world of the real. These laws are our laws. Oh, they're rewritten in somehow, but you see where these ruling families corrupted the original bloodlines. I've been told that the original bloodlines that were in fact legally granted title, not from some cult, have been spending the time ever since trying to get rid of them. So they were given a royal title. They usurped the land. And since they were granted immunity, there were no consequences to their actions. As long as they paid the piper, they were free to do whatever they wanted. And this still carries over today. Canon 6568 says, under the feudal law, the Roman cult declared everyone to be servants of God, including the pontiff, thereby establishing a hierarchy of servitude or slavery to the church, beginning with the pontiff and then with everyone else successively lower vassals. Oh, there's that word vassal. From Latin meaning vos, vatus meaning surety, bail, the lowest slave being the serf. The concept of the bondsman being free was replaced with the serf being the lawful property of their liege, their lord, by being a vassal. That's what every American citizen is a vassal, surety to a feudal obligations. No longer were the disenfranchised bondsmen considered tenants of a noble, but as perpetual slaves with almost no rights whatsoever. Don't hear this discussed on the 5 o'clock news, do you? This is where all this comes from. And as the British Empire and the Spanish Empire and the French Empire began to spread out throughout the world, they carried this with them. Contaminating the public consciousness of humanity. Canon 6569 says, under the feudal law, the bondsmen were depreciated to the status of serfs and slaves. However, the feudal system continued to honor the fundamental rights attached to the concept and use of a tendency of a form of equity and redemption, but now only for nobles. Thus, the court of chancery were formed in order to hear disputes between lesser nobles as tenants and the higher nobles as landlords. Still today, if you rent, you are under this law. This law is exactly, look, and just go into your own states. It's the same thing. That's why it's still termed landlord. Now we've replaced the word serf for, in this case, tenant. But they even use the word tenant here. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, you want to know my opinion of this? I put a lot more weight on this than I do a lot of what I read, because I can see this in the laws of this country. Says the further corruption introduced by the Venetians and their vassals, the Rome cult under feudal law, was the concept of universal land taxes called the denari sanctae patri, meaning literally sacred land payment, in light of the false claim of the land as being owned by the Roman cult as exclusive agents of God. Unlike previous voluntary donations, taxes were mandatory, which defies the very source of authority by which they claimed to tax. Still happening today. Okay, I can see that we're all right. I love this stuff. Yeah. Like, well, what the heck happened there? This is some really, really interesting knowledge. I don't know what the heck happened to my camera here. That was interesting. Well, anyway, so this was class today, but I'm telling you, I got this sense that if you really can learn this and begin to apply it, it's going to carry over there. Um, Well, Darth, I'm glad it's a weird fun. And no, weirdly, it is fun. And the reason why you're having fun with it is because it's knowledge. We all live this stuff. I mean, I see a lot of countries that got this. India they still have this. I mean, this is British canon law. I mean, yeah, this is, NWO kind of stuff. If you understand these canon laws of sovereignty, when those perpetrators of other type of ways of thinking, you've got a legal defense here. I wonder how many have passed over on the other side. And I don't know what awaits there, but let's just say that you are confronted. Well, you've got knowledge in here now that you'll be able to reference and say, wait a minute, I have canon sovereignty of law. What do you have? Well, thank you, Truth in Me. It's good stuff. I mean, this is really, folks, if you're seeking enlightenment, metaphysical stuff is fine, but you've got to have you've got to have the knowledge to articulate your defense. I contend if you're still trapped into this system, it's because you didn't know the laws. I don't know. I could be wrong, but telling you, let's go over there and come back and, you know, I can do the interview. I'll just have to go with it. All right, folks. Bosto to everyone. Thank you, all you truth seekers. I tell you, I enjoy the company. It's rare, it's beautiful, it's uplifting, and it continues to add to our collective knowledge. And we're going to continue this. I don't see any reason to deviate from it. We're going to get into God. We're going to get into how the structure is defined, how the canon laws, and I've already found a couple that I can already say, I'm sorry, I happen to have, Article 110.2 that says I'm exempt from that. And it's null and void, ispo facto. Bye. But anyway, hey Lois, how you doing, hon? Got to get you on. I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing good. And hello, Julianne Payne, how you doing? She's getting into her springtime. Hello, Dargo, good to see you as well. And Carol, yeah, this is good stuff. it's good stuff. It's not popular, idiocy that most people, but that's fine. I mean, this to me is intimacy. This is what I do believe telepathy is all about. And as we move into the spirit realm, telepathy is going to become very important. And I'll much rather be able to rely upon my consciousness, my one book, and say, but wait a minute. No, you see, that doesn't apply to me. That contract is null and void, you know. Anyway, well, thank you, Robert V. Y'all make sure to promote him tomorrow in the Milky Way Soul Tribe channel. I know Robert and Trina do their show on Saturday. I think, Robert, you do another one with Lori, I think, on Friday. So, yeah, check it out. Tomorrow we have Card Day. Have a new guest joining on the panel. So, yeah. So, let's keep it up. I'll see y'all tonight on the Steiger Perspective, artistfirst.com, and check it out, and we'll have fun with it. All right, folks, until tomorrow, peace. Bosto to one and all. Favor be among us as well. All right, bye-bye.